Chuz Hu, in the university dormitory. Mad, don't Nima sleep, you have to take an exam. Lying on the bed, Chu Feng suddenly opened his eyes, crazy, cold and bloodthirsty. This Nima. Some people dare to say this loudly. Isn't this looking for death? Are you afraid of attracting mutant beasts? Since the cataclysm, how many people have been eaten by zombies, and how many people have been reduced to food for mutant beasts? Humans who were once aloof can only hide in the sewers and linger like mice. How long has this been? Haven't you learned your lesson? But the next second, Chu Feng's eyes were dull. Outside the window, the sky was blue and the air was fresh. There are no hordes of zombies, no ruined high-rise buildings, and no rancid smell of corpses and flies. It is not an apocalyptic scene at all. In front of his eyes, in the messy dormitory, two boys are holding the computer, their bright eyes staring at the lint-free screen, the radiant, non-striking beauties, their eyes doubled. Chu Feng was shocked. Isn't this the roommate from 10 years ago? Fat guy. Glasses. Turning his head and looked around, inside this dormitory, it was as good as the one in my memory 10 years ago, with smelly socks and snack pockets everywhere. In the corner by the door, piled up are high beverage bottles. The environment in the dormitory can definitely be described as a mess. Chu Feng opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word. In his mind, countless regrets, and pain filled his heart. Ha ha ha! He looks crazy. Countless voices in my heart sounded. Unexpectedly, I was born again. God heard the cry of my soul and gave me the opportunity to reverse everything and make up for all my regrets. In the last life and the end of the world, he was immature, sincere, and kind, and suffered countless losses. When he fled for the first time, he was pushed towards the blood-eating mosquito by his classmates. Although he survived by chance, his vitality was severely injured, causing the back. His strength progress is far lower than the others. Because of his stubbornness, offending the existence of the overlord level among the survivors, the demon hunting squad that treated him like a family member was retaliated against. The captain, who treated him like a big brother, was cramped and thrown into the mutant beast. Nah. I'm so regretful that I shouldn't listen to my father's words. I will go my own way, and go to hunting the alien animals alone, and finally fall into a desperate situation. My father desperately saves me and finally sees him die in front of me. I regret it even more. I shouldn't be blinded by hatred. I practiced madly. In the end, I went crazy and became a useless person. In exchange for the repair fluid to save me, my eldest brother voluntarily was chopped off his limbs, installed machinery, and transformed into a biochemical mechanical beast. Chu Feng's eyes were tearful, and his heart was bleeding. The confidant who has always admired him, but also because of his involvement, the fragrant disappears jade, those former friends and relatives are also very miserable. I once had the opportunity to become a super evolutionary warrior, because I was badly injured, and I missed it. I once had the awakening talent and the opportunity to become a super powerful person. It was also because of the favor that made people hand over. In the end, what is left is the evil demon who was slandered as anti-human and became the public enemy of the world. Not only was he pursued and killed by the Zerg, the corpse, it was even more intolerable by humans. Chu Feng smiled sadly. No one knows that the generation of Tianjiao who once walked on the forefront of resisting alien races in the last days and opened up a survival base for human survivors finally died silently in a damp, unknown cave. And now, he is born again. Back before everything started. I said the second child, what's wrong with you? At this time, the fat man and the glasses finally came back to their senses, looking at Chu Feng in a little astonishment. Why did the expression on this kid's face seem to be sleepy? Chu Feng took a deep breath and suppressed all excitement. Chu Feng blinked and confirmed the current time again. November 30th, 3020. That's right, he is completely certain that this was 10 years ago, when the end times had not yet erupted. 12:30 at noon. In other words, is there less than 1 day left before the end of the world? Chu Feng was shocked and quickly calmed down. Enough. This day is enough time for him to prepare many things. Thinking of this, Chu Feng looked at the fat man and glasses next to him. They were his 2 roommates in the previous life. After the apocalypse broke out, the fat man was okay and lived to the 3rd year of the apocalyptic outbreak. These glasses. Chu Feng couldn't help frowning. He tried to recall that in the 10 years since the end of the world, he had not heard about glasses. It is possible that this guy had died shortly after the outbreak of the end of the world. Thinking of this, Chu Feng's eyes flickered. After the last exam this afternoon, they will be off. Glasses, fat man, I heard that a flu-like virus is about to break out recently. Please pay attention and try not to go out after you get home. In addition, store more food and water, this time the incident may be longer. Chu Feng looked at the 2 of them, their luggage was already packed, and it seemed that they were going to go home as soon as they finished the exam in the afternoon. The scene from 10 years ago resurfaced before him. Ah! Is it so serious? The fatty looked helpless, but he blinked, then nodded seriously, accepting this fact. I have also seen a lot of news reports. Recently, there have been problems in the world. There are few weird things. Some mountains split for no reason. In some places, the trees grew more than 10 meters tall overnight. Now there are more and more weird things. Isn't it? The glasses also despised, the man-made rumors now are really getting worse and worse, and there is an even more outrageous thing, that is, a spring with a diameter of 10 miles appeared in the Sahara Desert, and water is constantly gushing from it. According to scientists' estimates, the Sahara Desert will become an ocean in a few years. We seem to have a lot of weird things in our country, but they are all crushed. Other than that, when I bought the ticket a few days ago, I found that many trains were cancelled. It was said that there was a mudslide and the road was broken up. Listening to the 2 of them talking about some news on the internet, Chu sighed. In his last life, some strange news had already been uploaded on the internet, indicating the arrival of the end times. Unfortunately, he had not paid attention at all at that time. I don't believe it at all. If he had prepared early, he would not end up like that later. Forget it, it's not so peaceful, it's better to stay at home and play games. Second, let's go first. After you finish the exam, remember to go home early. The glasses turned around and pulled his trolley case, patted Chu Feng on the shoulder, and left with the fat man. Be sure to listen to me, don't go out, store more storage, pay attention to safety. Looking at their backs, Chu Feng said in his heart again. Of these 2 guys, one lives in Nandu and the other in Shangjing. Those were all extremely important places before the end of the world, and there were a large number of troops stationed there, although there were some troubles in the months when the end of the world had just begun. But soon under the management of the army, they will re-enter regularity, and after adding their own advice, these 2 people will probably have no problem. Thinking of this, Chu Feng let go. In addition to them, there are dog eggs. The 3 of them, and the guy Gauden, are good brothers. After 3 years of university, I have always been in love with each other. That guy Gauden, who is not a professional with him, went home yesterday after finishing the exam. The family is in the countryside, and the guy is strong. In a short time, even if he encounters a zombie outbreak, it is estimated that there will be no problem. Thinking of this, Chu Feng shook his head slightly. Ding! Chu Feng was thinking about what to do next, but when the phone rang, he chose to hang up without even looking at the caller ID. At this moment, no matter how important things are, they can't bother him. The eruption of the end times. It has been less than a day. He must prepare some materials as soon as possible. Of course, weapons are also included. Fortunately, although the conditions in his family are not as good as these 2 guys, he often works part study in normal times, so that he still has a few $1,000s in his pocket. The money was originally used to pay the tuition for the next semester. But, the end of the world is coming. Pay the tuition fee? After the two left the dormitory, Chu Feng didn't stay too much, grabbed the wallet, checked the approximate amount inside, and then walked outside the school. Only 2 steps away. Chu Feng's gaze suddenly lit up. In the corridor of this school, there is a firefighting axe hung on the wall. The whole body is painted with red paint. Under the reflection of the corridor lights, it looks extremely mighty. Seeing this scene, Chu Feng stopped. This gadget is half an adult's height, and its weight is not light. As a weapon, this gadget is better than normal. Chu Feng glanced twice, doing nothing and doing nothing. Grab this fire axe and hold it in your hand. Now it's going to be the end of the world, and I don't care about caring for public property. I hold it in my hand and weigh it. Yes, this thing can indeed easily break the zombie's head. This thing can at least guarantee that the first month of the end is safe enough. At the beginning of the end of the world, the zombie level was not very high, and the action was slow. A fire axe was enough to split the heads of those guys. But in the middle and late stages, the zombies have also begun to evolve, and their strength has greatly increased, and this thing has become a little insufficient. Chu Feng took the fire axe off the wall and looked around. No one noticed his behavior. Then he took off his coat, wrapped the fire axe, and walked quickly outside. Chu Feng, don't you take the exam? Only 2 steps out, a cold voice came from behind, but Chu Feng raised his eyebrows and left without looking back. You stop, I'm the study committee member of the professional course, can't I control you? The voice came again, and a slender figure stopped in front of Chu Feng. Like Doomsday Evolution Park, please collect it. Doomsday Evolution Park has the fastest literary update. Who? Chu Feng was a little impatient, frowning and speaking. You. Are you a bad brain? I'm Meng Shuet. The girl in front of her raised her head slightly, her pretty face full of coldness. She is a school girl. When in ordinary times, which boy doesn't smile when he sees himself? Is this guy so ignorant? You can't drop a major for professional courses, otherwise you need to make up the exam. Go to the exam room with me right away. What is it? I don't have this time. Chu Feng shook his head and looked impatient. When is this? Still taking an exam? By the way, Meng Shuet, you should prepare some water and food. You should have heard a lot of weird things on the internet. I got the exact news that in the next few days, schools will be out of power and traffic will be out of service. After leaving a word, Chu Feng took a step forward. The end times are coming. Chu Feng didn't have the energy to write with irrelevant people, but Meng Shuet and Chu Feng still had some impressions. Although this little beauty was arrogant, she was kind and responsible. She was a little different from the vases in the school. But the end of the world is coming, even Chu Feng has no confidence, and takes a woman to survive in a world that is about to undergo drastic changes. The only thing she can do is tell her to prepare more food and water. After leaving the school, Chu Feng looked at the bustling street and sighed slightly. After tomorrow, this busy city will be in ruins. Have you heard that Yunshan, which is 50 miles away from our city, seems to have something major happening, and troops have moved over? Who knows, I'm wondering why there is always no water at home these days. I heard from the internet that many places in the world are in chaos, and some countries are in chaos. Many people say that the end of the world is coming. Walking on the road, the voice of passers-by kept coming from Chu Feng's ear. He looked up, and there were panicking people everywhere on the road. There were long lines in front of the bank's ATMs. In the supermarket, there was no flow of water, they were buying food frantically, and a large number of policemen kept order on the streets. The arrival of the end times, people already have a rough perception. It is a pity that he was still in school in his previous life, and he still lived a peaceful university life, knowing nothing. Chu Feng held the wrapped fire axe and went directly to a repair shop not far from the school. "Boss, sharpen this thing." "Kong dang." Chu Feng didn't make any ink marks. He threw the fire axe in his hand on the counter as he spoke. The boss was a middle-aged man, and he frowned when he saw Chu Feng's dress. A college student in ordinary dress, holding a fire axe, came to his factory to make a knife? Isn't this confirmation to be funny? "Young man, I'm doing business here. If I don't play with you, go quickly." The boss waved his hand impatiently and frowned. Young people nowadays are more and more able to play. 2,000 yuan, and the army thorn on your shelf, give me an edge. While speaking, Chu Feng didn't hesitate at all, and withdrew money from his wallet, no more, no less, just counted 2,000 yuan. This. The corner of the boss's mouth twitched slightly. Today's young people are really more and more able to play. And actually play it for real? The boss's eyes were bright, and he didn't say much because of the face of money. Emergency broadcast, downtown bank, was attacked and robbed by a gang of thugs. On the old-fashioned TV in the store, the voice of the hostess sounded. Chu Feng picked up the remote control and replaced it with another one. "Dear friends, the latest news, the trains to 32 cities such as Yanjing, Magic City, etc., due to troubleshooting reasons, the trains will be temporarily cancelled. A terrorist incident occurred in the US, half of New York City collapsed and fell into an abyss several hundred meters. According to international news reports, a magnitude 10 tsunami occurred in the island country at 4 o'clock this morning. More than 10 million people lost their homes and lost more than 1 trillion. Severe vicious incidents have occurred in many European countries, criminals have been cruel, and victims have been eaten." Chu Feng took a deep breath, feeling a sense of urgency in his heart. Must speed up. He looked at the fire axe that was being sharpened by the boss. This thing is not normally used. But after all, it is a firefighting appliance, and the quality is acceptable. If you use the blade, the lethality is naturally nothing. Chu Feng stepped around the counter, and took out the army thorn mentioned earlier. This army thorn looked cold and gleaming, but it was actually just a layer of metal powder on it. And at first glance, it is highly imitation goods. However, in the early end of the world, it is also useful. The fire axe is used to chop the head of a zombie. As for this army thorn, naturally I don't say much, it is used to deal with people. After the end of the world began, a large number of people in the world have become zombies. As time goes by, food begins to be scarce. At that time, humanity will be degraded, and there will be no laws and moral constraints. In the 10 years of the last days, Chu Feng has seen too many such things. Chu Feng had lived in the apocalypse for a full 10 years before, and he had seen too many scenes like this. In the middle and late stages of the apocalypse, the food shortage problem began to expand. Someone could kill a group of people for a mouthful of water. This is human nature. After leaving the weapon shop, Chu Feng didn't leave in a hurry. Instead, he walked around and bought another jacket for field exploration. This thing is professional extreme sports equipment, but this set is worth 1,500 yuan, others may not think it is worth it, but Chu Feng knows it. This thing has a huge effect after the end of the world. At the beginning of the last days, not only did most humans become zombies, but also the temperature difference between day and night was huge. With such a suit, you can save yourself a lot of trouble. After buying the clothes, Chu Feng stocked up a lot of food. It doesn't matter whether the food is good or not, the most important thing is to be portable. And there must be high energy. After the end of the world, whether it is delicious or not, basically no one cares about it. As long as it can survive, let the big beautiful woman run naked in the street. The key is that the price paid for doing so is still very small. 1 biscuit is enough. After buying a large bag of food and water, Chu Feng took 2 weapons and went straight back to the dormitory. It is night now. It was only less than 5 hours before the end of the world broke out. After dawn, the mutation will begin. Chu Feng was not in a hurry. He completely closed the door of the dormitory and closed the doors and windows. Avoid encountering zombie raids after you wake up. Then came a good meal to save enough energy. Because after dawn, they fight for survival. He has already called home this afternoon. Tell your parents to store food that can be stored for a long time. Thinking of my younger sister who was still in high school. Chu Feng sighed. The two were so far apart that it was simply not enough to rush over before the end. After the outbreak of the previous life and the last life, the whole world was in panic. Chu Feng was also one of them. After a month, Chu Feng gradually adapted to the changed world. When he arrived at his sister's school, there was no life there. People. Yes, they are just zombies in the playground. In the past 10 years, Chu Feng has been living in guilt. I never even gave up looking for my sister, but there have been no results. Thinking of this, Chu Feng took a deep breath. Tomorrow, I will go to my sister's school. If not, I am afraid there will be no chance in the future. While waiting, Chu Feng turned on the phone. One video after another popped out. Killed. Monsters, monsters, monsters are eating people. Chu Feng frowned tightly. Soon, these videos were banned. However, there is no end to it. One has just been banned, and a new video has been uploaded. The whole country, all over the world, is filled with panic. In many videos, military, helicopters. A mysterious man appeared in Tianese province, covered in flames, burning his house to ashes. Shock. A mysterious woman from the US, with angel wings growing out of her back. Soon, Chu Feng discovered that the internet was disconnected. The phone can no longer receive any signal. He took a deep breath and put down the phone. After the end, all electronic devices will lose their effect. His eyes flickered, and some human beings have begun to awaken their abilities. These people who can awaken before the end of the day can be said to be the pride of heaven. After the apocalypse opens, there will be a large number of humans awakening, but there will still be some waste people who cannot be awakened. These people are called old humans. In the previous life, Chu Feng was an old man. Old humans can only take the road of super evolution warriors. It's a pity that Chu Feng was pushed to the blood-eating mosquito for a living classmate in his previous life, and his body was almost sucked dry, and his vitality was severely injured. He was on the road of a super evolutionary fighter. If it weren't for later, he would have a big chance, maybe as early as the first year of the end, he would have died tragically. Call. Finally successfully condensed a trace of vitality. 4 hours later, Chu Feng breathed a sigh of relief. I opened my tired eyes. Vitality. This is his unique secret in the last life. It was precisely with the help of the mysterious ancient book he obtained by accident that he cultivated his vitality, and he rose step by step afterwards. Unfortunately, the time is too late. At least 2 strands of vitality are needed to build the foundation to depict the cashier talisman. There are only 3 hours left before the end of the day. Such a short time is not enough to cultivate a second vitality. Chu Feng did not give up. In the dormitory, he sat cross-legged on the bed and kept practicing. Hoped to refine the second vitality before 12 o'clock. Roar. There was a low growl, and Chu Feng opened his eyes from the training. The light flashes in his eyes. He looked towards the dark red sky outside. In the night, thick smoke billowed, women screamed, car explosion roared, police car fire truck emergency car sirens filled, and brutal beast roar. The Fishan building, a surface building in the city center, is blazing, illuminating the entire sky. Chu Feng took a deep breath again, he knew that the end of the world had come. In the body, the second trace of vitality, which is still a little worse, can be successfully condensed. However, there is no time for him. Next, it's time to really fight for survival. And the low growl before. Just outside the door. Chu Feng could easily judge that it was only a first-degree zombie. At this time, the zombie had no wisdom at all and was slow to act. As long as it is an adult with adequate physical strength, without being besieged by a large number of zombies, there is a chance to survive. Ah! Monster! Don't eat me! Song Ming, why are you crazy? What are you doing biting me? Ah! Teacher, it's not good. In the dormitory building, the sounds of students' panic and gnawing sounds constantly sounded. Boom! Chu Feng clenched the fire axe in his hand without any hesitation. There was a hole in the door of the dormitory. Outside the door, 3 zombies wander aimlessly. Chu Feng sighed. He knew these 3 zombies. One was the youngest in the opposite dormitory, and the other 2 were students majoring in international trade in the class next door. Once, Chu Feng and them played together. But at this time, their eyes projected a red light, and even pieces of meat on their bodies continued to fall down. There was a broken arm hanging from the corner of the mouth of the youngest man in the opposite dormitory, and the blood was constantly falling. Roar! The zombie from the International Trade Department also happened to spot Chu Feng, and rushed towards Chu Feng with a low growl. Chu Feng took a deep breath and shook the fire axe in his hands, his eyes became cold. The end of the world is coming, all for survival. For a time, the brutal atmosphere swept away. Chu Feng seemed to be a different person, and he greeted him with a soft snort. Like Doomsday Evolution Park, please collect it. Doomsday Evolution Park has the fastest literary update. Puff! With a soft sound, the fire axe in Chu Feng's hand had penetrated the zombie's head, and a large amount of dark green blood was sprayed out. Many of them were contaminated on Chu Feng's mountaineering clothes, and a pungent stench filled the air, but Chu Feng didn't even wrinkle his brows. For him, this situation in his previous life was just an appetizer. His face was cold, he opened the skull of the zombie, reached out and grabbed everything inside. Red and white. Soft and slippery. Disgusting. However, Chu Feng's complexion remained unchanged, his gaze was directly at one of the white crystals the size of a rice grain. In the next moment, the white crystal seemed to be absorbed and disappeared. Chu Feng sensed that the second strand of vitality in his body was a bit bigger, but it still did not condense and formed. He frowned and sighed, the zombie that has just been transformed is too weak, and the crystal core doesn't have much power. This is the mysterious technique he obtained from ancient books, and the anti-ski effect it has. Not only can it depict various vitality runes, but also content runes, supernatural power runes, strong sun runes. It can also refine the power of various crystal nuclei and strengthen oneself. Even the abilities of human supernatural beings, Zerg, corpse, can swallow refining. Help! What the hell, go away! Farther away, Chu Feng even heard someone screaming. There are even more zombies gnawing human flesh, making the sound of grinding their teeth. But soon, the scream that sounded before disappeared, leaving only the sound of chewing. Most of them have been killed in the mouth of zombies. Be infected and become a new zombie. Chu Feng's eyes were firm. The few zombies in front of him were obviously just not long after they had just turned into zombies, they were slow to act, lacked wisdom, and were not his opponents. Roar! But the movement from Chu Feng's side immediately attracted the attention of other zombies. The zombies who were wandering around in the corridor were attracted by the movement and quickly gathered in the direction of the door. He slowly squatted against the door, adjusting his breathing. If it weren't for the door in front of you, surrounded by so many zombies, it wouldn't be dangerous. Roar! A low growl spread again, he gave a low shout, jumped up, and the fire axe smashed down. Hey! Most of the head of the zombie was cut off. The body immediately collapsed. Beheading is the fastest way to end the lives of zombies. Because the crystal nucleus that supports their actions is in their brains. After taking away the crystal core, Chu Feng felt a little more vitality in his body. Roar! More zombies rushed over. Chu Feng leaned against the dormitory door and waited calmly. Elementary zombies have only instincts, but no intelligence, and don't know what to do after opening the door. So he is not worried at all. Returning to 10 years, except that the body needs to be retrained, Chu Feng is confident that he is stronger than anyone in the world. Because he has 10 years of end-time survival experience. Seeing these zombies, relying on their primitive instincts, constantly hit the door, Chu Feng's eyes were cold, and the fire axe in his hand waved again. Whoosh whoosh! With 3 soft sounds in succession, the 3 zombies near the door had fallen to the ground. Opening the door of the room, the last zombie leaped towards him, kicked by Chu Feng's expressionless foot, raised the axe in his hand, and the corpse separated. After refining the 4 crystal nuclei, the vitality in the body increased a little bit. But still not enough. Too weak. With a secret sigh, he walked out of the dormitory. He must condense the second trace of vitality as quickly as possible before he has enough strength to rush to the school where his sister is. The earlier she passes, the safer she will be. Roar! A tall and mighty zombie stood on the aisle 5 or 6 meters away, blocking the door of the dormitory, blood-red eyes exuding a bloodthirsty light, which was full of excitement. Chu Feng was slightly surprised. The zombie seemed to be wise. Of course, it is only slightly stronger than the weakest chicken. He didn't care, strode forward, avoided the attack sideways, and put an axe on the zombie's neck. Beheaded. Break the brain. Take the crystal core. All in one go. The second vitality is finally reached. The surroundings were temporarily safe. Chu Feng found a corner to sit down and began to make the Nayuan talisman. The Nayuan talisman can speed up the absorption of vitality, thereby allowing him to gather vitality faster. It is an essential talisman for cultivation. But he suddenly hesitated. Nayuan Fu is powerful, but it is an aid to cultivation. The most important thing for him right now is the power to protect himself. Just like the magic rune. You can increase your own strength in a short time, and can even reverse the situation when encountering dangerous battles. Another example is the Talisman of Content, which has a cubic space and can store various items. In the end times, all are huge. Chu Feng kept thinking, and finally gritted his teeth and made a decision. Town Demon Talisman. Chu Feng did not refine the Nayuan Talisman, nor did he refine the Divine Power Talisman, but chose the Demon Talisman. Out of the dormitory carefully, Chu Feng went straight to the school infirmary. He refining the Town Demon Talisman naturally has his intention. In the future apocalypse, the awakened new humans will prevail. They have powerful abilities and superhuman physical qualities. It is the mainstay of the entire human race. In addition to human beings being able to awaken, some animals also have the bloodline ability to awaken. Their strength is extremely terrifying, and they will shine in the later apocalypse. In the last days, the Wolf King among the 9 powerful kings of the world has contracted a demon wolf to run wild in the world, horizontally and horizontally in the last days, and is respected by countless people. Apart from the demon wolf, there are many terrifying mutant beasts in the last days. Chu Feng remembered very clearly that one of the 10 beasts in the last days, the Thunder Corpse Dragon, came from his school. The campus is very empty at night, and the shortest straight line distance from the boys' dormitory to the school doctor's room is through a small forest. Chu Feng rushed in without hesitation. The grove is a holy place for dating. At this time, it has naturally become a gathering place for male and female zombies. Facing a female zombie, without a skirt and topless, Chu Feng smiled, kicked to the ground, stepped on the other side's silicone chest, and chopped it off. Behind him, a male zombie rushed over. Chu Feng turned around, the fire axe swept his waist, and the zombies flew out. He stepped forward and made up the last axe. After receiving the crystal core, he dared not delay and went straight to the school infirmary. Although it is a good place for leveling, considering his younger sister, he still gave up this small forest. The plan in my mind is very simple: first go to the school infirmary to conquer the Thunder Corpse Dragon, and then go to the female dormitory downstairs to pick up the car. The man who picks up girls, the cars are there. The door of the school infirmary was open, and Chu Feng rushed in quickly. With a casual glance, he saw a glass barrel on the shelf of the infirmary with medicated liquor in it. And in the medicinal liquor, there is a 3-foot-long black snake. Cold. Evil. The black snake, who had been dead for a long time, didn't know how long, but at this time it exuded a heart-palpitating feeling. On its body, there are more purple electric currents crackling. It is constantly changing. Chu Feng was so excited, he didn't expect to find the Thunder Corpse Dragon so smoothly. Without hesitation, he directly sacrificed the Demon Town talisman and fell towards the black snake. With my blood, contract. Chu Feng was extremely excited. This is the Thunder Corpse Dragon, one of the top 10 fierce beasts in the last days. Once he can conquer it, his achievements in the future will be limitless. Boom! At this moment, the tallest building in the city exploded in the distant sky, and the firelight just illuminated the school infirmary. In a flash of light, Chu Feng saw a shadow behind him rushing over. Boom! Wow! Without hesitation, Chu Feng retracted the town demon talisman and fell to the ground. A figure fell on the other side of the medicine cabinet, and he stepped on the number of glass bottles that he did not know. A school doctor zombie in a white coat whispered and turned his head. Chu Feng was annoyed in his heart, so he almost finished the contract. Now, it fell short. The Thunder Corpse Dragon is now in the process of transformation. It will not resist. It is the easiest time to overcome. Once this time is missed, then it will be extremely difficult to overcome the opponent. Like Doomsday Evolution Park, please collect it. Doomsday Evolution Park has the fastest literary update. Call with the wind blowing behind him, Chu Feng didn't turn his head back, but he shot with the fire axe behind him, but he slashed in and turned left. With a pop, the axe slapped the zombie's arm, but Chu Feng bounced out with a strong force. The entire axe made of steel is sunken in the middle. Terrifying strength. Chu Feng was shocked. How could ordinary zombies be so strong? No, this is a mutant zombie. Chu Feng's body shook, his pupils locked. He was annoyed in his heart, and he didn't expect to encounter a mutant zombie at such a critical moment. The only thing he can rely on now is the vitality of his body. The vitality can be used to refine talismans with various effects, or it can be consumed directly to increase the physical strength. The vitality just now has been used to make the Monster Town charms. There is not much left. Even if all of them are used, the chance of hitting the opponent is extremely small. In the last 10 years, his judgment of danger was extremely accurate. This zombie, with his current strength, can't do it. The chance of using up vitality is extremely slim. Damn it, the last days have just arrived. How come such a terrifying mutant zombie appeared? Chu Feng cursed. Glancing at the black snake that had reached the final stage of transformation, Chu Feng became more anxious in his heart. If this opportunity is missed, it will no longer be possible to subdue this corpse dragon that will rampage the world in the future. Moz, fight it! Vitality. In an instant, Chu Feng consumed all his vitality, and he felt infinite strength rising from his body. Boom! He collided with the mutant death world, and the mutant zombies flew out several meters away, smashing countless things. But Chu Feng was even more miserable. He flew out 7 or 8 meters, his entire arm was tingling. As soon as he stood up, the mutant zombies rushed up again. Boom boom boom! It was just a moment of effort, and the entire school infirmary was in a mess. The clothes on Chu Feng's body were torn and blood was dripping in many places, but his eyes lit up. The primary mutant zombies still don't have much intelligence. This has a lot of room for play. Upstairs in the school doctor's room is a teaching building with 7 floors. It was already night and there were not many people in the building. Chu Feng ran all the way, followed by mutant zombies. He ran upstairs quickly, he was going to the rooftop. In the blink of an eye, he had already planned how to deal with this zombie. It stands to reason that there is no one in the school building that is already at night. There should be no zombies. There are exceptions in everything. There may be several pairs of wild mandarin ducks secretly dating in the classroom tonight. When the disaster broke out, these people were not spared and turned into zombies. When Chu Feng rushed to the 3rd floor, a female zombie suddenly threw out at the corner of the corridor. The upper body was wearing a black leather jacket, but there was nothing underneath. Chu Feng cried out strangely, but the fire axe that had been deformed a long time ago went up from the bottom, breaking his stomach. Blood splattered and ink splashed on the wall. Without looking back, Chu Feng rushed straight. On the 7th floor, he only took 2 minutes. Kicked open the roof gate, and there were still a few zombies on the empty roof. Moreover, there are 2 survivors. A boy guarding the female voice, holding a wooden stick in his hand, desperately resisting the attack of the zombies. Seeing Chu Feng, the 2 of them instinctively began to call for help. "Classmate, help! There are monsters here." However, behind Chu Feng, a bigger monster followed. The 2 of them were silent. The mutant zombies roared, and Jing seemed to be able to command those zombies. Suddenly, the 3 zombies gave up the man and the woman, and rushed towards Chu Feng. Humph! Kicking a zombie with 1 foot, Chu Feng swung an axe to cut off the arm of the other zombie, and moved sideways to avoid the attack of the 3rd zombie. Then a tumbling, the mutant zombies flew over his head and rushed into the air. Swipe! 3 axes chopped off the legs of a zombie, causing the opponent to completely lose mobility. Then Chu Feng fought and retreated, slowly coming to the edge of the rooftop. At this time, he destroyed one of the 3 zombies on the rooftop, killed one, and the remaining one, along with the mutant zombies, attacked him. At a certain moment, when the mutant zombie attack failed, he flew an axe to slash the chest of the last zombie, but unfortunately he was stuck in the chest. For a time, I can't get it out. The mutant zombie turned around and rushed again without hesitation. You are waiting. In the loud roar, Chu Feng turned around, abandoned his axe, and threw away the zombie's arms like lightning with both hands, grabbed the collar of the other party, retreated to the edge of the roof, fell to the ground, stretched his legs to cushion the zombie's belly, and then slammed hard. Rabbit kicks the eagle. The strong inertia took the zombies to the rear. And there, it is high above the sky. Fuck, that mutant zombie completely fell into mud. Hu exhaled a long breath, and Chu Feng got up from the ground. Lifting the axe, he chopped the broken-legged zombies still crawling towards him into 2 halves. He collected 3 crystal nuclei and dragged his tired body quickly downstairs. This pursuit really pushed out the limit he could exert at this time. In less than 10 minutes, he climbed 7 floors, killed 4 low-level zombies, and designed to fall to death a mutant zombie. It is indeed the limit he can reach. But the harvest is great. With my blood, contract. Chu Feng controlled the town demon talisman and landed on the black snake's head. The town demon talisman condensed into a mysterious talisman, bursting with dazzling light, and deeply imprinted in the black snake's brain. The next moment, the town demon talisman flashed, the black snake soaked in the medicinal liquor disappeared, turned into a rune, and flew back. On Chu Feng's arm, a shallow tattoo appeared. Call. Chu Feng breathed a sigh of relief and finally succeeded. The Thunder Corpse Dragon, one of the 10 greatest beasts of the last days, became his contract beast. After the transformation of the Thunder Corpse Dragon is over, there are still a few days of sleep. Although it is not useful now, when it wakes up, it will show its sharp fangs. Chu Feng walked out of the school doctor's room, and on the empty ground downstairs, the mutant zombie could no longer die. Chu Feng split its head blankly and found a round red crystal nucleus. This crystal nucleus is indeed from a mutant zombie. It contains extremely large energy and absorbs the crystal nucleus. The vitality consumed by making the demon talisman in Chu Feng's body is not only fully restored, but also immediately increased by a large amount, and the distance is completely condensed. 3 traces of vitality, it should not be long. It's not in vain that I took such a big risk. Chu Feng was extremely pleasantly surprised. The gain this time was so great that he not only subdued the Thunder Corpse dragon, but also increased his vitality. The most direct withdrawal of vitality increase is that Chu Feng's physical fitness has been enhanced. At this moment, he is very different from himself an hour ago. Although after some fighting, it feels much easier now. After taking a break, he used the recovered vitality to make another magical rune and a flame rune. Then, carrying a fire axe, he quietly walked through the grove and went straight to his dormitory. The materials he collected before are all placed in the dormitory. Because there were too many supplies that affected the battle, he didn't take it with him when he first arrived. Now, since I got the Thunder Corpse dragon, I have to go back and get it. Okay. However, when Chu Feng returned to the dormitory, he immediately frowned. All his supplies are gone. Like Doomsday Evolution Park, please collect it. Doomsday Evolution Park has the fastest literary update. In the dormitory, a mess. Obviously, someone had visited here and took away all his things. Haha, very good, dare to grab my things. Chu Feng's face was a little cold, and his heart was angry. In the last days, the most important things are food and water. Without these things, he can only collect them again, and this will inevitably delay him a lot of time. Go find a car, and then go to the nearest supermarket. Chu Feng made a decision immediately. This is not the time to be angry, just recollect food quickly. Chu Feng left the dormitory immediately and cautiously went downstairs to the girls' dormitory. There is no shortage of luxury cars downstairs in the female dormitory of the university. Especially downstairs in the girls' dormitory at night. Chu Feng! Chu Feng, save me! As soon as Chu Feng arrived downstairs in the girls' dormitory, a voice with surprise came. Damn, idiot! Chu Feng cursed immediately. On the first floor of the dormitory, in the left window, a figure appeared, waving his arm at him. Even more than one person was waving at him. Inside the dormitory building, there were waving arms everywhere. Many people have an urgent look on their faces, trying to attract Chu Feng's attention as much as possible. A girl with disorganized hair in pajamas and exposing large areas of whiteness, through the locked dormitory door, she shouted at Chu Feng in despair, "Wu, as long as you save me, I can do anything. Do it for you." Behind her are 3 mutated zombies. In the next second, the girl was torn and bitten by the zombies, and she was silent for a while. In the huge campus, there are wandering zombies everywhere. The aviation sirens also sounded. But it couldn't dispel the fear in everyone's hearts. Chu Feng's expression was indifferent. He had seen many such things in his previous life. Now, he doesn't even have the ability to take care of himself, how can he save others? Chu Feng, my dad is the chairman of Xinglong Group. He is very rich. As long as you take me out, I will give you a lot of money. My dad is the deputy mayor. One after another loud shouts rang out, hoping that Chu Feng would save them. Chu Feng shook his head. After the end of the world began, all order was disrupted. Money? Money is the most useless thing in the last days. One of the biggest functions is to use it to make fires for warmth. Now if you want money, there is still an egg? Right? It's even more useless. The only thing we can see in the last days is who has the big fist and who has more food. In addition, Everything else is floating clouds. Students, you must follow the instructions. I believe that there will be rescue teams soon. Inside the dormitory building, the teacher shouted hoarsely, but the only answer to him was the cry of if there was nothing. We must be strong. We still have hope. A teacher shouted loudly, holding a loudspeaker in his hand. What? But the next second, the screams spread. The male teacher's arm was bitten by a zombie because it stretched out the window. Although he broke free, his whole person was quietly changing. Chu Feng shook his head and stopped observing, because the people in that dormitory had to pay for the teacher's generous statement. With the constant sound of the sirens, a large number of zombies were attracted to the past. Chu Feng wasn't that he couldn't save him. This kind of scene is commonplace in the 10 years of the last days. He sees too much. From the moment of the end of the world, there are no rules, there is purgatory on earth everywhere, and only the strong can survive. Thinking of this, Chu Feng raised the axe in his hand, broke open the window of a car, and got into the cab. But the sound of the broken driving window suddenly attracted several zombies wandering around. These zombies came in desperately. Chu Feng was not moved. He pulled out 2 leads from the car and connected them skillfully. After a while, the car was already on fire and could be started at any time. There was a touch of hideousness on Chu Feng's face. As soon as I stepped on the accelerator, this Hummer, like a roaring beast, rushed out directly. The zombies that were in the front were just like tofu chunks under the powerful horsepower of the Hummer. Get out! Chu Feng didn't stop, and drove forward quickly. He has to rush to Yunling City next to him, and if he arrives as soon as possible, he can save his sister from danger. Time is life. Look! Someone is driving and hitting a zombie. Many people in the surrounding dormitory immediately noticed Chu Feng. Please take me away. As long as you take me away, I can be your girlfriend, I will be good and listen to you everything. I am willing to be your girlfriend, too. Every woman yelled. Chu Feng shook his head. Woman? After the end of the world began, those incapable women were nothing more than tools for those powerful beings to vent their desires. It is one of the cheapest commodities. The more beautiful the woman, the more miserable. In the prosperous age, they can be aloof, countless men treat her as a goddess, but after the end of the world, there is no value. Chu Feng drove directly onto the main road of the school. There was depression everywhere. There are still a handful of zombies on the campus, wandering aimlessly. After hearing the roar of the car engine, they chased up like crazy. But Chu Feng's speed was very fast, these first-class mutant zombies were slow to move, and it was impossible to catch up with the high-speed car. The nearest supermarket is the school supermarket on campus. Now that the end has just come, food is still easy to find, but it will not be long before food will become the most precious thing. He has no food on him now, so he has to collect it quickly. Boom! The Hummer roared, and Chu Feng walked along the main road of the school, passing through a bustling street, smashing zombies one after another, and stopped in front of the school supermarket. When the car came close, Chu Feng frowned. Around the supermarket, a lot of zombies have been gathered, obviously there are people inside. At this time, the surrounding zombies had heard the sound of the car engine, and their attention had been completely attracted. They had already rushed towards Chu Feng, regardless of the few people in the supermarket. When Chu Feng saw a group of zombies rushing over, he was not afraid at all and sneered. Boom! The accelerator pedal was slammed down, straight to the end, the huge roar of the engine, like a muffled thunder, the whole body was shaking violently. Under the power of terror, the Hummer in the wilderness slammed into it like a high-speed train. The zombies that rushed up fell a large part in an instant. Boom! Chu Feng rushed all the way, hitting most of the surrounding zombies. Then he turned around and headed straight for the supermarket door. There is no meaning to stop. Boom! Chu Feng drove the car and rushed directly into the supermarket. The rows of shelves were all knocked down and countless goods flew into the sky. Chu Feng rushed and didn't stop at all. The Hummer in the wilderness crashed into countless shelves, made a circle in the supermarket, turned around, and exited the supermarket again before Chu Feng stopped. He is not sure whether there are zombies in the supermarket. It is safest to drive directly in. If there are a large number of zombies in the supermarket, he can escape immediately with the power of Hummer. Chu Feng sat in the car and breathed a sigh of relief. He had just seen clearly that there were only 2 girls in the supermarket, looking at him in amazement. Apart from these people, there were no zombies. He didn't care about these people either. After all, he was going to Yunling City to find his sister. It is a good thing to stock up more food. Most of the surrounding zombies have been solved, and the danger has been reduced to a minimum. Chu Feng stepped out of the car, rushed into the supermarket, and was about to start collecting food in large and small packages. Chu Feng! Chu Feng! Will you take me away? However, he had just arrived at the door, and a surprised voice came, and the 2 young girls inside rushed out, looking at him with excitement. Chu Feng frowned. Oh shit! She finally knocked all the zombies around to death, so loud. Did she want to draw zombies from other places? Those people present at that time are all over. To shut up! Chu Feng suddenly became violent. This is a terrible thing. Chu Feng, how do you talk to me like this? The charming young girl in a short skirt with black silk on her hips suddenly screamed, but Chu Feng raised her eyebrows. Snapped. With a slap on the woman's face, Chu Feng didn't have any pity for Xian Jiaoyu. Survival now matters. Chu Feng? Is it really you? A weak voice came from the other side, a young girl wearing a plain white dress with long snow-white legs, elegant appearance and dusty temperament. Chu Feng frowned, only to realize that these 2 women are classmates of his own. Especially Zhang Ziqing, a girl with a dusty temperament, is the school girl. No wonder she can call her name. Let her shut up, if you don't want to die. Chu Feng glared fiercely at the woman who fell on the ground before he cursed. Both Zhang Ziqing and Liao Wei were frightened. Is this the Chu Feng they know? Zombie, zombie! Liao Wei, who fell on the ground, couldn't help but screamed, because she was frightened. Her voice was sharp and loud. Oh shit! Chu Feng was angry. Turning his head and looking, sure enough, a group of student zombies not far away had already rushed over, and the nearest zombies were less than 3 meters away. This distance was too late to make any reaction, and could only choose to heeden. Liao Wei was stunned, a flash of resentment flashed in her eyes, and she could not take care of a lot of her life right now. When Chu Feng rushed up, she turned her black legs into the supermarket without hesitation. Closed the door. Chu Feng raised the fire axe and burst out with strong force, directly hitting the zombie's head. His face changed abruptly when he turned his head. Zhang Ziqing beside him was also stunned. Her classmates actually shut her and Chu Feng outside? For a moment, Zhang Ziqing looked pale. This world is full of monsters, and being locked out can only be a dead end. Chu Feng didn't say much. He raised the fire axe in his hand and hit it directly. This axe was originally very heavy, but under such a full burst, the force that burst out was enough to make a hole in the supermarket door. If you don't want to die, just follow me. Chu Feng frowned and looked at Zhang Ziqing beside him. There was a group of zombies in the distance. Hearing the movement, they were moving in this direction. If you want to survive, you can only enter the supermarket as soon as possible. Boom! The fire axe in Chu Feng's hand was smashed out again. The door trembles slightly. Chu Feng glanced at the door of the room and didn't say much. Then he kicked it up. The door was finally opened and Chu Feng walked in with a gloomy face. If it hadn't been for the preparations, they might have died outside now. Like Doomsday Evolution Park, please collect it. Doomsday Evolution Park has the fastest literary update. Chu Feng, I. Liao Wei watched the supermarket door opened by Chu Feng, walked in with a sullen face, her heartbeat accelerated, and she glanced at the blood axe stained with colorful zombie blood in Chu Feng's right hand, her legs trembled, and she screamed. Hurriedly fled. How could her speed be better than Chu Feng, even with a heavy axe in hand? Chu Feng caught up with Liao Wei extremely quickly, grabbed her clothes and pulled her over. Chu Feng sneered, pinched Liao Wei's white neck and lifted it up. Don't kill me. I'll be a cow and a horse for you, whatever you want. Please don't kill me. Such words didn't have any temptation to Chu Feng, and with the look of Liao Wei in front of him, he couldn't catch him at all. Don't. Zhang Ziqing watched this scene blankly. Even if Liao Wei shut her out of the door just now, she still couldn't bear to see Liao Wei die just now for her own life. Roar. The roar of zombies and the sound of hammering the door panel came from the back door of the supermarket. Now there are more and more zombies. Just visually, there are 7 or 8 waves swaying towards them in the distance. Chu Feng frowned slightly. He had to make a quick fight, and Qi changed his mind. With his current physical condition, Chu Feng was still very confident about dealing with a few zombies. But the fear is that it will attract more zombies. In the last days, life and death crises are everywhere, and the ghost knows how many zombies will be nearby. Once they are all attracted by the movement here, even if Chu Feng has 10 lives, it will be difficult to escape to heaven. Thinking of this, Chu Feng let go of Liao Wei and said coldly, if you want to survive, yes, I'll give you a chance. Go and stop the zombies at the back door and don't let them in. Chu Feng glanced at her indifferently. Liao Wei felt a tremor in his body, and hurriedly responded, no problem, I stop them. Send the fast food and mineral water to the car. If you can't put it down, you have to plug it, as much as you can. Chu Feng ignored Zhang Ziqing's dumbfounded look, and then gave an order to Zhang Ziqing, if you want to survive, just listen to me. Be fast. The zombies have already arrived, and he has no time to collect supplies bit by bit. Chu Feng shook his axe. Zhang Ziqing felt a cool breeze blowing across his face. He suddenly became sober and hurriedly replied, well. I'll give it away. Seeing that both of them were in place, Chu Feng waved his axe, rushed out of the supermarket, and took the initiative to kill the group of zombies. This scene stunned Zhang Ziqing and Liao Wei behind. Chu Feng took the lead to meet the first zombie. Boom! The sound of broken bones sounded, and the green blood splashed in all directions. Chu Feng subconsciously closed his mouth and eyes tightly, so as not to be infected by the blood with strong corrosive power. Taking advantage of the situation, he grabbed his left hand forward, grabbed the zombie's abdomen, and dug into his forehead. In an instant, another crystal nucleus was absorbed. Fucking, what are you two doing in a daze? Don't hurry up and move. Chu Feng turned his head to look. Zhang Ziqing looked at him blankly. The expression on his face seemed shocked, but also unbelievable, and he shouted angrily. Is he really Chu Feng? Liao Wei and Zhang Ziqing were awakened, with complicated emotions flashing in their eyes, but they no longer thought about it, had no time and dared not say anything. The zombies were right in front of them, and the truly apocalyptic appearance made them fall into it. There was great fear, and if they wanted to live, the two of them had to listen to the words of Chu Feng, who looked a little strange, and whose temperament changed drastically. Zhang Ziqing picked up instant noodles, ham sausage, sashimi, self-heating rice, compressed biscuits, and other quick foods, and then sent them to the off-road vehicle. There is still plenty of space for off-road vehicles. After all, the car body is large enough to hold these fast foods, enough to eat for many days. Chu Feng smashed the skull of the third zombie, and after absorbing the crystal nucleus, he took the opportunity to glance and saw that although the two were hurriedly moving, they were also constantly moving. With peace of mind, he lifted the axe, roared and killed. There is another zombie beside him. Chu Feng, who had solved the 5 zombies, had already lacked physical strength. He leaned on the telephone pole on the side and took a sigh of relief. After scanning the surroundings, the zombies attracted by the movement appeared several waves. No way, if this goes on, although he can kill these zombies, he will consume the supernatural power talisman and flame talisman that he has just refined. These things are used to save lives, and they are wasted here. It is not worthwhile. Especially, the group of zombies is endless, and there is no way to kill them. After taking a short nap, Chu Feng glanced at the two zombies that were approaching Zhang Ziking's direction, took a deep breath, and strode with his axe. Boom! Ziu! That's how Chu Feng raised the axe in his hand and fell. Like cutting melons and vegetables, the heads of 3 zombies near the off-road vehicle burst. Chu Feng breathed a sigh of relief. After absorbing the crystal nucleus, he asked, "How much did you collect?" "The back seat is half." Hearing the answer, Chu Feng nodded. "It's almost time." He has very little physical strength left, and he can't stay any longer, so he urged, "You two, drop what you have, and move a few boxes of water, hurry." "It is good." "Understand." The two responded separately, each carrying 3 or 4 boxes of mineral water towards the off-road vehicle. Chu Feng leaned against the open car door and took a nap. He smiled coldly as he watched their movements. This is the potential forced out by the desire to survive. In the past, the girls who could not even unscrew the caps of mineral water bottles can now move 3 or 4 boxes of the whole box of mineral water, and they can also trot very fast. Tut tut! It's at this stall. A pair of scarlet hands suddenly stretched out from under the ground, and they suddenly grabbed Liao Wei's black silk legs from behind. Puff! Liao Wei and the box of mineral water in her arms fell to the ground. She looked back and saw the hands. "What? Don't come here, ghost!" "What?" The hand sank to the ground again. Puff! "Do not!" Puff! Puff! Liao Wei let out a sharp roar, crawling back and shaking her body 3 times with the sound, and the ground was immediately dyed red by the bleeding blood. "What?" After 3 consecutive beeps, Liao Wei's body remained silent. "What?" Chu Feng was shocked. This familiar blood hand. How could it be possible that mutant zombies appeared again so soon? "Zhang Ziking, hurry up!" As Chu Feng shouted, he was already in the driving seat. That hand can only be a mutant zombie, a crypt zombie. With Chu Feng's current strength, facing this kind of zombie, he does not say 10 deaths and no lives, but he also consumes all his whole cards to win. It's just possible. The Thunder Corpse Dragon is still asleep, and his current trump card is just a slightly stronger body than ordinary people, and 2 Vitality Talisman. 10 years of experience in the last days, once standing at the pinnacle of human power, Chu Feng's judgment of his current strength is still very accurate. It is impossible for him to kill this crypt zombie. Now that he is born again, he absolutely cannot tolerate that he has cut off his life because of the moment the Virgin. Never. Whether Zhang Ziking can survive or not depends on Zhang Ziking himself. Like Doomsday Evolution Park, please collect it. Doomsday Evolution Park has the fastest literary update. Buzzing. Chu Feng was already on fire. The strong desire to survive caused Zhang Ziking to burst out at a speed comparable to Superman at this moment. Da-da-da. After a few large strides, Zhang Ziking, in a plain white dress, had already arrived by the car, threw something into the car, and got into the co-pilot. "Close the door." Boom! Boom! There was a closing sound, the sound of an off-road vehicle's chassis being hit by an object. Chu Feng heard clearly, didn't think too much, and too late to consider the problem of the chassis, and stepped the accelerator to the bottom. Whoosh! The vehicle flies out. Chu Feng and Zhang Ziking sat in the car, and naturally they couldn't see the bright red bursting from the tires of the car. It was because the crypt zombies couldn't avoid it and were run over by tires. The crypt zombies that howled several times inside the ground suddenly jumped out, showing their stature. It is very short, the size of a child, and has no legs, but its hands are large, more than twice the size of his own body, and he relies on his own hands to walk. At this time, one of its hands was a bit flat on the front half, which was obviously crushed by heavy objects. It stared at the back of the off-road vehicle that was going away, and took a deep breath. This action was like a hunting dog leaning on the smell to find its prey. Then it supported the ground with both hands and ran with the exhaust of the car very funny. Inside the car, Zhang Ziking's gasp was quieter, but he was still a little frightened. He kept stroking his full chest, calming his uncompressed mood. These things that happened today, the zombies, Chu Feng's killing without blinking, and the huge hands just before, had a great impact on her, and he, as an ordinary person, could not completely digest it in a short time. All changes will take some time to adapt. But those zombies won't be merciful just because you didn't adapt. They don't have any emotions, and there is no possibility of compromise or reversion. Faced with them, there are only two ways to choose: be killed or kill them. Chu Feng drove the car intently. For the zombies wandering on the road, he would not choose to run wild, but avoid it when he could. Despite this, his speed was extremely fast, and the accelerator pedal was pressed to the end, but he did not release in the past. Many zombies were also smashed into pieces of meat on the way. This is not Chu Feng's poor zombies, there are really too many zombies. If the off-road vehicle and the two of them only end up on a rampage like a tank car, it is a car crash and death. Because the zombies are very hard in other parts except for their weak heads. What's more, this is an off-road vehicle, not a real tank. Chu Feng, thank you. Zhang Ziking's voice still trembled slightly. How did you do it? Chu Feng glanced at her, but didn't say a word. Chu Feng didn't bother to care about her, and he didn't understand what Zhang Ziking asked. What should we do now? Where shall we go? And our classmates, how are they? Do you want to find them? By the way, go to Beijing, we can go to Beijing, where it must be safe. Chu Feng frowned, this girl, there are too many useless words. Moreover, Beijing is not a good place. There are only a lot more zombies than Chuzhou City, and because Beijing used to be a populous city, there are more people gathered, zombies are more nutritious, and they are more prone to mutations. If you are going to Beijing, I can put you down and go by yourself. Chu Feng said lightly, I am going to Yuanling City now. Yuanling City? Zhang Ziking was stunned. Yuanling City is two big cities away from Chuzhou. Although the distance is closer than Shangjing, why did Chu Feng go? Yes, Yuanling City. Chu Feng saw her puzzlement and said, where my sister is going to school, if I take a step slower, my sister's danger will increase by 1 point. I must go over quickly, otherwise. Seeing a zombie eyeball sticking to the window of the car, Chu Feng thought that his sister might be facing these penetrating and disgusting zombies now with great horror, and Chu Feng felt even more anxious. Zhang Ziking's heart warmed, and a lot of nervousness and fear disappeared. Originally, she was worried about what Chu Feng would do to herself. Now when she heard such a sentence, a sense of security and warmth suddenly emerged from the bottom of her heart. It seemed that she had some misunderstanding of Chu Feng. Because to her who had nothing to do with her, Chu Feng really did something to her at any time. If you kill her, you can live. Chu Feng would swing his axe without hesitation. Kill her. What sound? Chu Feng's expression suddenly changed, and there was a burst of worms in his ear just now. Ah! What's wrong? Zhang Ziking's face also turned pale, something that made Chu Feng feel terrible. Could it be some monster? OM. 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 The sound continued. As the off-road vehicles drive farther and farther, the distance to the school gate is getting closer, and the sound is getting closer and clearer. Although Chu Feng felt strange, he still kept driving until a group of people fleeing for their lives appeared in front of him, followed by a group of zombies, all running in Chu Feng's direction. Those people saw Chu Feng's vehicle, as if they had seen a savior, and howled madly. "Help me! Help! Classmate, help me! These people are dead," and Chu Feng has already drawn a conclusion to them in his heart. He didn't take care of it. Looking behind the zombies, Chu Feng had already stopped the car, looked at it clearly, and understood what was going on. What kind of monster is that?" Zhang Ziking opened his mouth wide, with a face of disbelief, goosebumps all over his body, and fear entangled in her heart again. A word, big. 2 words, dense. That is not a zombie, nor is it a creature like a corpse clan. The creatures were red like maggots, but their body was as big as a large dog, and the head had a big eye like a hungry wolf, fluttering wings and making a weird cry. Those monsters not only attacked and killed humans, but even zombies were food in their mouths. After the penetrating eyes were opened, they showed shark-like sharp teeth and swallowed all the food in front of them. Densely packed, in groups. One wave has not stopped, another wave is about to strike. At a glance, Chu Feng recognized what the unidentified flying creatures were. Those were the Zerg troops, Baiman insects. These guys are far more difficult and terrifying than the crypt zombies. Chu Feng alone is no longer an opponent, what's more, there is not one at present, but a dense group. However, the digestive abilities of those monsters do not seem to be very strong. After they are full, they will stop foraging, and it will take about a week for them to resume their mobility and start foraging. Chu Feng had already turned the front of the car and stepped on the accelerator. "Wait, Chu Feng, we like Doomsday Evolution Park, please collect it. Doomsday Evolution Park has the fastest literary update. Don't save them." Chu Feng smiled coldly. "Save them? Who will save us?" Speaking bluntly, if you want to get out of the car to rescue them, go, I won't stop. You. Zhang Ziking was startled and wanted to hold Chu Feng accountable, but he swallowed as soon as the words came to his lips. In this case, the mother's heart can only make you die faster. Not only can it not save people, but it will also put yourself in for nothing. Not to mention the white man worms, just the zombies under the worms can easily rip your body and eat everything you eat. Chu Feng turned the steering wheel abruptly, drove back to the route he had come from before, and then said, "In the end it becomes the excrement of a worm and returns to the embrace of Mother Earth. Is this what you want?" But Zhang Ziking still feels uneasy and wants to say something. Chu Feng glanced at her, remembering the memories of being abandoned, framed, and even attempted to kill with the same thoughts he used to hold, and suddenly yelled, "Shut up! Dare to say one more thing, I will throw you down, let you see clearly, what is the end of the world, and what is the end of the world. I have said it once, I don't want to repeat it a second time. In this apocalypse, there are not only zombies and monsters, but other human beings are also enemies. Even if it is not the apocalypse, there are already murderers, criminal offenses, and other evil acts. Let alone at this moment, the cruel reality of a person's cannibalism is more prominent. If you are not more cruel than others, you can only be eaten by others." A line of tears appeared on Zhang Ziking's face, staring at Chu Feng in a daze, and said, "Why do you accept reality so quickly and so clearly, these things?" Zhang Ziking also understands the truth. At any rate, she is also a college student. With regard to the topic of human nature, she can also give a set of rational arguments. But people are still emotional animals. Understand, it doesn't mean you will do that. On a larger scale, everyone can do things rationally. There will be no human tragedies of all kinds, let alone the tragic tragedies like world wars. But it does not exist. There is always an evil and emotional side in human nature. This is a cruel fact that cannot be changed. With them blocking us, those monsters will not be able to catch up for a while. Chu Feng stopped the car and thought for a moment calmly. At the moment, I can't get out of the school gate. But over the wall means that the vehicle cannot be taken out. If the off-road vehicle can't get out, without fast means of transportation, without the food and water in the vehicle, it is impossible for him to walk to Yunling City alive. He can also find a car and food again after he walks out of campus, but this is not only a waste of time, but also a lot of uncertain dangers. With this time, it is better to quickly strengthen your own strength, raise your vitality to the third thread, and portray the cashier talisman. With the storage of food, with stronger vitality and strength, he can kill directly from the school gate. Younger sister. Brother will be delayed for a few days. Hold on to. Must be alive. When I kill the white man worms, I will save you immediately. Must be alive. Chu Feng clenched his fist tightly, unwilling to do so. Next, what shall we do? Zhang Ziking asked. Back to the supermarket. Back to the supermarket. Chu Feng nodded, then decided to say, I won't be able to get out for a while, go back to the supermarket first, and develop a wretched one. Worthy development. Zhang Ziking didn't quite understand what Chu Feng meant. I think it's better for us to find classmates to reunite. There are more people and more power. As soon as Chu Feng heard it, he waved his hand and shook his head. There are too many people, and there are too many things, so there will be more trouble, and the possibility of death is also high. But there will always be a way. We work together to overcome the difficulties. Isn't it better than fighting alone? You're right. Chu Feng still agreed with this sentence, but he smiled indifferently and said coldly, but the situation you are talking about only exists in imagination. The fact is that everyone is afraid and escaping. In times of crisis, you want others to die for yourself. That is the collective of those people you yearn for. In fact, enemies like gods are not terrible. The real terrible ones are those pig teammates who cheat you behind the critical moment. In the previous life, he was pushed by his classmates to the blood-eating mosquito. He will never forget. If it weren't for this incident, how could it be possible that his strength was far lower than the others? That's just a few people, I don't believe that the classmates are like this. Zhang Ziking was dressed in a plain white dress, and his white face was stained with a lot of blood, but it became more and more pure and pure. Her clear beautiful eyes stared at Chu Fan, pointed at Chu Feng and said directly, for example, you, Chu Feng. I. Chu Feng was stunned for a moment, pointed at himself, and laughed, it seems that you have some misunderstandings about me. Suddenly, Chu Feng grabbed her jade hand and pulled her over, a big hand pressed against her full and proud place, and said coldly, now, do you know what the end of the world is? What? Zhang Ziking screamed, his pure face was even more ashamed. Boom! Suddenly, a pair of giant hands hit the engine in front of the body. Ah, hand, Chu Feng, hand. Zhang Ziking recognized it at a glance, the same giant hands as the hands that killed Liao Wei before. I can see it, you don't need to introduce it to me. Chu Feng said lightly, with his palm taken back from her. It's just that the person waving these giant hands is a bit funny. The body is like a 7 or 8-year-old baby, and there is no lower body, every time the hands are dropped, its body seems to fly up. Boom! 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 The owner of these hands is very angry. Judging from its smashing movement, it can be seen that even if the hands are oozing bright red blood, it is still madly smashing. Chu Feng frowned secretly, was he being stared at by this crypt zombie? He glanced at the front part of the right hand of both hands, which was somewhat flat, as if being pressed by a tire. Chu Feng was stunned. It turns out that B was run over by himself, no wonder he was so angry. This guy wanted to destroy his Hummer at all costs. He was obviously retaliating and staring at himself. Since this crypt zombie had lost his only reason, Chu Feng had some assurance in his heart. Even if the Yuan talisman is not consumed, there may be a chance to kill the crypt zombies. Now his strength is low, only a few Yuan talisman, cannot be wasted, can only be used to save his life. Before the other party got into the ground. Take the opportunity to kill. Not impossible. Chu Feng's heart was already moved. Although crypt zombies belong to mutant beasts, their bodies are weak points, and they are as strong as ordinary zombies in terms of hardness. However, the energy contained in its crystal core is much richer than that of ordinary zombies, at least equal to the absorption of more than 10 ordinary zombies' crystal nuclei. What's more, he might also be able to learn the extraordinary life-saving skill of Dundee. Such a huge temptation was placed in front of Chu Feng, how could Chu Feng not be moved? Don't move in the car, I will meet it. The heart is worse than the action, Chu Feng said, closing the door bang and got out of the car. The big axe with faint traces of blood had appeared in Chu Feng's hands again at some unknown time. Although Zhang Ziqing was worried, seeing that Chu Feng had already gone, it was too late to stop him, so she had to cheer for Chu Feng silently in her heart. Chu Feng bent over, touched behind the crypt zombies, lifted the giant axe, exhausted all his energy, and chopped it down. The sound of breaking wind blows. Like Doomsday Evolution Park, please collect it, Doomsday Evolution Park has the fastest literary update. Chu Feng's offensive was launched at an extremely fast speed, and it was impossible for ordinary zombies to have time to hide. But mutated zombies are not ordinary zombies after all. The giant hand raised and blocked the infant's head, and came into close contact with the axe. Pouch! Red blood burst out. The giant hand was deeply smashed by the axe and flowed along the axe handle onto Chu Feng's hand, sliding onto the arm and even the body inside the clothes. Wow, the crypt zombies made a weird cry. Chu Feng felt cold, and 3 seconds later, those areas that felt cold began to itch. The blood of ordinary zombies will not have any abnormalities. Although there are colorful in all colors, even if it is covered with the whole body, as long as it does not enter the body and does not blend with the cells in the body, there is no possibility of abnormality except for the nausea. But crypt zombies are different. His blood will cause itching, and after the itching, it will blisters. In his memory, many people scratched the singe bubble because they couldn't help but scratch, and then they were invaded by the bacteria from the zombies, and finally turned into corpses in the pain of life not as good as death, and their death is even more terrible. It's not that Chu Feng didn't want to avoid it, but that he could not avoid it. It was true that he couldn't let go of the fire axe. Without the fire axe, he would not have the weapon to face the zombies head-on. Facing these monsters with bare hands, he had only a dead end. But the fire axe was stuck in the giant's hand again. He pulled it out several times, but he didn't pull it out. Oops! Chu Feng secretly broke out in a cold sweat. He not only underestimated the crypt zombies, but also overestimated his physical fitness at this time. His thinking inertia over the past 10 years caused him to have such an accident. The small eyes of the crypt zombies glowed red, looking at Chu Feng. The pain this time was stronger than the pain of being run over by a car. The hatred of Che was successfully transferred to Chu Feng. The other giant hand changed in an instant, and the fingertips turned into pinpoint-like nails, and the nails were still faintly black. It was obviously poisonous and entangled on it. With a strange cry, it pierced Chu Feng. Down! Come out! Chu Feng roared from the bottom of his heart, pulling out the fire axe with all his strength, and letting him fly upside down. After rolling for a few times, he smashed his head, but he happened to avoid the attack of the crypt zombies. Chu Feng supported his body with a giant axe, squatted on the ground, breathing heavily. Oh! The crypt zombies roared like this and patted their hands on the ground, disappearing in front of Chu Feng's eyes like air. Chu Feng's heart tensed, and he hurriedly got up and closed his eyes. Although his vitality is still low, it can also be used to sense outside. Although the range is a little small, only less than 1 meter underground, but it is enough. Right. Chu Feng felt the attack of the crypt zombies, and the giant axe slammed down to his right side. Wow, there was a whine from the ground. Before he could reach out his hand, he felt a distance conveying his body from the ground, and the eyes of the crypt zombies became even more red. Cuckoo! Chu Feng saw the small drum bag rising from the ground and ran away like crazy. Call! Chu Feng took a sigh of relief and glanced at the tattoo of the Thunder Corpse dragon on his hand. Unfortunately, he hasn't awakened yet, otherwise, in any case, the crypt zombie would not be able to run away. No longer thinking about this, he hurried back to the car and shouted to Zhang Ziking inside, "Give me water." Hungry other zombies attracted by the movement of the battle felt the disappearance of the crypt zombie's breath, roared, and looked at Chu Feng hungrily. These guys don't know how to run, they don't have a reason, only the instinct to eat. There are more and more zombies around. Chu Feng frowned and jumped into the car without receiving the water from Zhang Ziking. He closed the door and quickly took off his clothes. What? Zhang Ziking screamed. You! What are you doing? Chu Feng grabbed the tissue and paused for a while, grinned at the corner of his mouth, and said indifferently, "Go." Zhang Ziking's legs trembled, one hand embraced his body, and the other hand covered his eyes. After a few seconds, he didn't notice any movement and looked at Chu Feng through his fingers. I saw Chu Feng pour the mineral water on himself one after another, while rubbing the blood stains on the skin with a paper towel. Zhang Ziking felt relieved. It seems that he has misunderstood Chu Feng. I'm not interested. After finishing washing, Chu Feng threw the previous clothes out of the car window, topless, and said lightly, "This monster's blood is poisonous. It is cleaned now, and it is too late to be infected. You seem to know these monsters well." Even if there are zombies all around, Zhang Ziking has no trace of fright. Seeing that although he has no muscles, but is still strong, Zhang Ziking only feels yearning, as if there is nothing to be afraid of as long as there is this man in front of him. Just thinking of the scene of Chu Feng pressing on her not long ago, raging with his big hands in her full and proud place, she became ashamed again. Especially when she saw that Chu Feng had a tattoo resembling a snake and a dragon, she shook her head even more. Chu Feng doesn't look like a good person. Of course, Chu Feng didn't know Zhang Ziking's change in mentality at this time, but he certainly wouldn't reveal his secret of being a rebirth. He grabbed the steering wheel and stepped on the accelerator, rushing to the surrounding zombies, and said, "Haven't eaten pork and haven't seen a pig run. Have you seen a movie? Have you seen a novel?" Zhang Ziking gave a pause. Movies, novels, aren't they all fake? When he glanced at the zombies that were torn apart, but still about to rush up, he sighed. "Well, I have to admit, it's not fake, it's real. By the way, do you know Zhao Fan?" Chu Feng suddenly thought of something, and asked so dumbly. "Zhao Fan? Well, addicted to the chemistry one." Zhang Ziking was taken aback. She was a little familiar with this name, and immediately asked, "You are talking about Zhao Fan, a graduate student in the Department of Chemistry?" Chu Feng nodded. "Just met once." Zhang Ziking was a little strange. Why did Chu Feng suddenly ask this? Didn't he care about other classmates? Chu Feng asked this suddenly, of course for his reasons. "In my impression, half of the people in the school were saved by him. This guy was obsessed with chemistry in the past, and he didn't have many friends at school, and even the students in his dormitory didn't seem to see him much. But after the zombie came, he was the first to have the awakening ability. Relying on the awakening ability, he rescued almost all the students in their dormitory. It's a pity that the classmate who was rescued by himself later was calculated. Because I envy each other's abilities, because I am jealous that the other person can save them all, just because I saved them. Saved them. I'm going to plot him." However, Zhao Fan chose the road himself, and Chu Feng had nothing to do except regret him. There is still 100 meters away from the supermarket. Chu Feng saw the crowds in the supermarket. There was a large number of classmates eating there. The door was sealed to death, and there were many corpses of zombies scattered outside. Who are these people? Chu Feng was a little strange. Like Doomsday Evolution Park, please collect it. Doomsday Evolution Park has the fastest literary update. Chu Feng parked the car a little farther away to avoid being robbed of the car, and put the clothes back on him. After all, the defensive power of this suit was good. Chu Feng wouldn't really go into battle shirtless, it was an act of seeking death. Getting out of the car with Zhang Ziqing followed him behind him as Chu Feng, and the two hunched over to the supermarket together. Why does it smell like burning? Zhang Ziqing asked strangely. Chu Feng shook his head, saying that he didn't know. Not long after taking them to the door of the supermarket, the two classmates at the door opened their eyes wide, looked at Chu Feng in disbelief, and shouted, "Chu Feng? Zhang Ziqing." These two lookout male classmates, Chu Feng, also recognized them. After all, Chu Feng hadn't seen these two people for 10 years in his memory, and it was strange to be able to call them by name. "Be quiet." Chu Feng scanned the surroundings, and then asked again, "How did you come here?" The classmates inside were also attracted by the movement outside. When a few classmates walked out, they all looked at them unexpectedly. Student Zhao Fan became a magician. With a sway of his hand, a fireball, oh, that scene, it was like killing zombies and playing. A classmate who came out from inside said dancing and dancing, his expression was very rich, as if he was awakened. He is the same. Chu Feng nodded thoughtfully. No wonder those zombies smelled of burnt. However, it shouldn't be so fast. Zhao Fan, who was in the impression, awakened the power of magic only the second day after the zombie came, and this time he awakened on the first day. They were given food because after Zhao Fan came to the supermarket the next day after awakening, they had food and water. As for Liao Wei and Zhang Ziqing, the two of them were probably dead in the supermarket long ago. Is this change the butterfly effect? In addition to the monsters he was familiar with, the classmates were a little different from what he had in mind. Is it because of his own rebirth that everything around him has begun to change? Chu Feng, do you still have the face to come back? A classmate walked out of it, and after looking at Chu Feng, his face changed suddenly. Oh! Chu Feng glanced at this person before he recognized it. Chen Ming. A person he will never forget. Before the end of the world, Chu Feng had a girlfriend named Liang Xiao. The two had talked for a few years. However, Chu Feng didn't know that he had become a laughingstock. Long ago, Liang Xiao had carried him on his back, and the rich second-generation Chen Ming got together. In the last life, the end of the world came, and it was Chen Ming who pushed him to the blood-eating mosquito and almost died. Chu Feng, where is my car? Chen Ming followed a female classmate tightly behind him, clutching the corner of Chen Ming's clothes, and looking at Chu Feng angrily. It is Liang Xiao. I don't know how she escaped from the girls' dormitory. But thinking with her ass, she also knows how Liang Xiao stepped on the bodies of other girls to get out of the girls' dormitory. This woman has a cruel heart. I was beaten by a zombie. Chu Feng lied without blushing and breathlessly. He glanced at Chen Ming coldly and said, Chen Ming, you have a face as a short-lived ghost, of course I have a face even more. Besides, this supermarket belongs to your family? If you can come, I can't come. Chu Feng didn't have a slight affection for these two people, and his tone was naturally not much better. The end of the world is coming, there are no rules, everything speaks with strength. Chen Ming pushed himself against the blood-eating mosquito in his previous life. How could Chu Feng not report such a grievance? Revenge is not overnight. His eyes were cold and murderous. He immediately walked to Chen Ming, ready to pinch him to death. Suddenly, there was a sneer at the corner of his mouth. He was tortured so much in his previous life, Chen Ming, must return, must also taste the painful blood sucking all over his body by countless blood-eating mosquitoes. Chu Feng stopped and gave up his plan to pinch Chen Ming to death. Well, you Chu Feng, if I don't kill you today, I won't have my last name Chen. When other students saw it, they stopped in the middle and became peacemakers. Don't get excited, Chen Ming. Chen Ming, classmate Chu Feng should have been flustered for a while. After all, so many zombies suddenly came, and everyone is afraid. It's all this time, stop arguing, the classmates must unite. Yes, what kind of grudges or grievances did you have before? Let's not mention it for the time being, let's go through the current stage, and then say no. Students say a word to me. Chen Ming couldn't say a word. Liang Xiaoxiao on the side was also dragged to the girl group. Sure enough, to unite people, in fact, there is no need for too complicated means. Just give them a common enemy. The enemy at the moment can only be zombies. These students are still very sensible for the time being. Chu Feng sneered coldly. These people are the ones Mr. Lu said that they would not open the window, but if you open the roof, they would be happy to open the window. In fact, this seems to suppress the problem, but the contradiction still exists, and the problem has not disappeared. Sooner or later, big problems will break out. There is only one real solution, and that is Chen Ming and Liang Xiaoxiao die, or Chu Feng die. Only by solving the problem can there be no problem. There were about 100 classmates in the supermarket, as well as someone who was familiar with Zhang Ziking. They greeted Chu Feng, and Chu Feng responded indifferently. Zhang Ziking chuckled and walked away with the familiar female classmate. Chu Feng himself found a fairly clean corner and lay on his side to rest. Every large group will always be divided into small teams. What is clearly visible right now is the one where Zhao Fan is the main one, and there are more than 20 classmates gathered, and Chen Ming is also among them. After all, Zhao Fan is currently the only awakened genius among them. All the classmates are naturally take Chen Fan first. After several consecutive battles, even Iron Man couldn't hold it, let alone Chu Feng's physical fitness was far from that level. The long-lost nap after exhaustion seemed precious at this time. He half closed his eyes as if he was asleep, but Chu Feng was actually paying attention to the movements of the students. Because he knows that next, there will be a battle. How could such violent movement here not attract the attention of zombies and monsters? And the crypt zombie. Chu Feng knew that he would definitely come to him again. That guy wanted to recover from the injury on his hand, with its own recovery ability, although it only took 3 or 2 days. But when he saw the blood full of allure, he couldn't bear it. As long as fresh human blood, that guy only needs the essence and blood of 2 or 3 people to recover. So, it will definitely appear. As expected by Chu Feng. Just when the students had a very relaxed conversation. A bright red. Another bright red. 7 or 8 consecutive bright reds. It burst out from under one student after another. The blood can't stop the frantic flow. What? There are monsters. Mom! Zhao Fan, save me! A classmate whose lower body was torn alive was crawling towards the transcendent. The others screamed to avoid them. Hand! What a terrible hand! Did you see it just now? What? What hand? Some people shrank in the corner shivering, fear descended again. Don't be afraid, there must be a way with Zhao Fan here. Yes, Zhao Fan, quickly set him on fire. What are you doing, setting fire? Zhao Fan! Zhao Fan! Like Doomsday Evolution Park, please collect it. Doomsday Evolution Park has the fastest literary update.